Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mavic channel. And man, the crypto space is blowing up. Bitcoin is a big constant. Ethereum is going crazy, almost 3,200 bucks. Hey, man, I don't own any more Ethereum. I spend it all in gas fees. Okay, seriously, guys. Today, I want to talk about the three companies that FetchAI has partnered with, or at least the three that I'm going to talk about today, because we all know FetchAI has partnered with tons of other companies. So let's look at these multi-billion dollar companies, or at least companies that are affiliated with multi-billion dollar companies, and like Katina X. So we're going to look at this FetchAI and Festo partnership and what it means. We're going to look at this partnership with Bosch, and we're going to look at FetchAI announcing their collaboration with Katina X. So first of all, the first thing you realize when you look into these three companies is supply chain, it's energy, it's interoperability. So these are factors, or these are philosophies that all these three companies believe in. If you look at Festo as one of the companies, you'll see that they want to improve value chain processes, and they want to fit into the GDPRS, the data regulation laws within Europe. And you see Katina X striving for the same thing: data sharing, creating that environment where there's this cooperation between companies with data. And with Bosch, you see that it's also trying to optimize the supply chain environment to create that efficiency between these companies that are optimizing especially the automotive sector with autonomous vehicles and all that. So let's look at Katina X first. We shall just briefly read about it in this article. And here's like Katina X, a secure cross-company automotive data exchange. I imagine many of us didn't know about Katina X. I imagine many of us didn't know about Festo as well. Unless you're from Europe, then I guess you might have known about them. But even then, there's some upcoming companies in my own country that I don't know about. So Katina X is operating under the name Katina X Automotive Network. The Automotive Alliance, as an implementation-oriented network, strives to ensure openness and neutrality when it comes to cross-company sharing of information and data in the automotive industry. So the founders of the network include BMW AG, Dutch Telecom AG, Robert Bosch, SAP, Siemens, ZF Friedrichshafen. Apologies to all the Germans. I yeah, I might have butchered that name. But so in this picture, we can see the groups that are, or the companies that have been in that are in the Katina X ecosystem. Of course, you don't see Fetch here because in this particular article, this was before the announcement. But if you go to Twitter, you can see, or if you go to LinkedIn, you can see that FetchAI is included in the corner of one of the companies that has been added to the Katina X group. And it's not very surprising because FetchAI is partnered with Bosch and these companies, and it's trying to solve the problems that they're trying to solve. So Katina X is defining itself as an extensible ecosystem in which automotive manufacturers and suppliers, dealer associations and equipment suppliers, including the providers of applications, platforms, and infrastructure, can all participate equally. Katina X's purpose is to create a uniform standard for sharing information and data across the entire automotive industry value chain. So so essentially that's it. Let us bring together all these companies that want to achieve a common goal. All these companies, since everyone is going to the automotive industry, autonomous vehicles, these companies all understand that that's where the future is, and they want to have a piece of the pie. They're like, you know what, these are complicated technologies, and if they're to succeed, we need all this infrastructure to be able to communicate with each other, to be able to talk to each other, to be able to transact with each other. So what they decided to do was to come up with this organization that's going to conglomerate them in a soft way, so that they don't have to compete with themselves. This type of competition is sort of can be seen as a sort of an antiquated way of running a business. Competition is good, yes, because it helps to improve products, and sometimes it drives prices even lower, or it creates competitive prices. But in this case, we're entering into a future which is quite interesting, which is quite dynamic, which is very fast. And when you have these cars, especially the automotive industry, You have these cars that are autonomous, that are driving themselves. Since all these organizations have that interest in creating these autonomous vehicles, you need them to work effectively. You don't want these cars driving themselves around. They can't notice road signs, they can't notice pedestrians, they can't communicate with other cars from other companies. So they need their own sort of internet. The same way websites can work universally on any TCP/IP or any computer, these cars, these vehicles need a way to communicate with each other on a platform that supports whatever differences they might all have. There is a common language that they have, so to say, that they can communicate with. So when you look at further into the articles that have been published about Catena X, that's when you realize that this is actually a big deal. The first time I saw Catena X, I was like, okay, what is Catena X, But it's actually a big deal. When you see Catena X Automotive Network, this is the name of the automotive alliance driven by BMW Group and other associates such as Mercedes-Benz, BASF, Henkel, and all these, partners. Industry 4, one of the aims behind this association is the digitization and automation of the whole automotive industry. The sector will benefit from the traceability from each data output throughout the value chain and from the increased efficiency in quality and logistics process. So this is all around this value chain thing, because we're going to the fourth industrial revolution. This new type of industrialization, if we're having autonomous cars, at some point, we shall have automated manufacturing processes. We shall have the demand is skyrocketing. The global demand for products. So it's very hard to use antiquated supply systems or how to deal with supply chain logistics with how the world, with how fast the world is moving, or how the type of future we're moving in the fourth industrial revolution. There needs to be a new way of doing things, a more efficient way of doing things to optimize these processes from all these different level tier processes of manufacturing and supply and demand and all that. So the furthermore you look into these articles, the Europe vehicle industry is linking up. The T Systems, they also published an article about it. The Alliance for Secure and Cross-Company Data Exchange in the Automotive Industry is picking up. You see all these articles. The founders of the Alliance Catena X share the first progress report and details about with the international data spaces. And you further read and understand that this international data space thing is a big deal. For example, here, the Automotive Summit, when German Chancellor Angela Merkel proclaimed data spaces as a top priority for the German automotive business, many industry observers were caught off guard. So this is a big deal. This is something that's attracting big time players into one space to cooperate and make the future of automation and autonomous technology a bit more efficient, and the supply chain more efficient as well. And then you look here, Catena X is developing an open, scalable network based on Gaia X to enable the secure inter-enterprise exchange of data in the automotive industry. Now, with Gaia X, as you all understand, these GDPR laws in Europe. So there's this very, they're trying to build a profound way of managing data ownership, data access, so, data protection for companies, for individuals. So I think that's where the partnership with Gaia X comes from, because the purpose of Gaia X is, as we can see here, is that we want to create the next generation of data infrastructure for Europe. So it states its companies, we want to create the next generation of data infrastructure for Europe. It states its companies and its citizens, and these other what should we call them? These are the goals that they have. These are their points. These are the goals that they want to achieve as well. So, and that's pretty much Catena X for you. I think you understand the magnitude of this company, or the purpose of this organization or partnership that FetchAI has done. And Festo is a multi-billion dollar company. As you all know, it's pretty much the Boston Dynamics of Europe. So you have FetchAI looking out for all these companies, these strategic partnerships, and partnering with them because they have similar needs and they have similar problems, and Fetch wants to solve those problems. For example, Festo, for instance, has a simple purpose of producing and selling pneumatic and electrical control and drive technology for factory or process automation. They want to help their customers to save energy. That's, it's something that's pursued by Festo. And they say that, remember, we have seen FetchAI as, I mean, Festo wants to help their customers save energy. And it's also something we've seen that has been pursued by FetchAI, because we've seen these different videos of FetchAI, and it has been the prime focus, one of the prime focuses, solving the data energy, the data optimization, data efficiency problem. So it all fits the narrative. And we've seen, if you look at this demonstration, if you look at this video, that one of the technical people from Festo was demonstrating to Maria from Fetch how they've actually used Fetch agents to optimize to create a virtual representation of how they can actually use agents to optimize the manufacturing process. And that takes us back to the meaning of their partnership, FetchAI and Festo team, to launch a decentralized manufacturing marketplace. So a company like Festo is into things like robotics. They're into bionic cyber factories. They're into bionic projects like birds, kangaroos. I think you've all seen those videos. They're into creating cyber factories or miniature factories that they can put out into universities that students can learn without disrupting the value chain process. They're into additive manufacturing. So these are all perfect fits for FetchAI, and these are very strategic partnerships that they've that are well sought out, and not just some random announcements just to make, maybe to be bullish on the token. No, this is actually value being built around an ecosystem that requires blockchain, that requires a transaction infrastructure, and that requires flexibility, so that anyone can decide to make their own decisions, or to choose how to run something onto the infrastructure, onto the Fetch dynamic environment, but at the same time have that interoperability. So that's why Fetch is a multi-stakeholder system. You can use third-party APIs and programming languages, but everything on there can communicate with each other, because that's the whole point, eliminating siloed systems in a decentralized way. And then Bosch is one of the final companies. Did I open up any tab for Bosch? Yeah, Bosch, I think you can summarize it in this video, or we can see here. Bosch and FetchAI to collaborate on preparations for launch of a fully functional blockchain network. So for Bosch, you all know they're into devices, and now they're heavily going into the automotive industry as well. The Bosch is heavily investing in the automotive industry, and they have this, for example, in this video here. This is Nick Sherman. Nick Sherman describes how Bosch is actually how there's actually an agent in this car, and how the purpose of this agent is to help this car recognize signs, communicate with other vehicles, and have a wallet within it with which it can transact, not only communicate on a distributed ledger system, but also have the ability of applying economics, of transacting with other vehicles, with other stop signs. And we can see this is exactly what FetchAI is trying to solve. So in that, with that realization, you understand how valuable the partnership of FetchAI and Bosch is, because Bosch has a specific problem, or at least they have a specific target of where they want to be and what they need to do to reach that target, and FetchAI is the perfect fit for that. And just imagine a situation where FetchAI sort of is the unifying technology that brings all these things to life, because it's interoperable, because it's flexible, because it's decentralized. So you don't have to depend on one centralized system, regardless of whether it's efficient or not. If FetchAI builds a scalable ecosystem where anyone can build any product that can do that's tailored to their purpose, and at the same time be able to store that knowledge and data, so that companies can optimize their supply chain. They know where, for example, in the supply chain, if you look at the different tiers of manufacturers and the demand and supply, so to be able to accommodate for those rapid shifts in demand, and to know where the transportation vehicles are, to know the GPS locations, to know when products, to know what routes or routes that products are going to take, all these things can be recorded through agents or an agent-based system. And that's essentially why these partnerships are very, very strategic and very, very important. Anyway, so that's my brief review of why these partnerships I think are very vital for the Fetch ecosystem and moving forward. And I'm extremely bullish on the Fetch.AI token, on the Fed token. Not financial advice, guys, but it's amazing. Everyone's really excited to see where Fetch is going. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you around.